Hello, my name is Debbie, owlandgatorstitcher. Welcome to Flosstube number 34. Today is Monday, May 30th, 2022. Here in the U.S., it's Memorial Day, and I'd just like to take a moment and thank everyone who has served, and especially to the families that have lost loved ones who served in the military. While we celebrate Memorial Day often as the beginning of summer, it is actually meant to be a day of reflection and to recognize that there are people who no longer are here with us because they made their sacrifice in service. And so I thank you to those families who have lost members who have served in the military. Thank you for your sacrifice, and I hope for a world in which one day that sacrifice is no longer required. But welcome to everyone. This is a video mainly about cross stitch, sometimes about what I'm reading and watching and life thrown in. And if you're new here, welcome. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I really enjoy all the comments you leave me. It's been wonderful interacting with people over the past few weeks. It's been about 2.5, 3 weeks since my last video because I've actually gone out and done stuff. I know in so many of my videos, I often say, yeah, it was a quiet couple of weeks here, not much going on, got a lot of stitching done. But in this case, while I did get actually quite a bit of stitching done, I also had an opportunity this past weekend to attend my 30th college reunion, and that was a lot of fun. It was the first time I've ever actually had the opportunity to attend my reunion, and it was so wonderful reconnecting with so many awesome people. I am Facebook friends with quite a few of them, and also, I mean, obviously some of them I have kept in touch with and seen from time to time, but where my college is located near Philadelphia, and I live nowhere near Philadelphia. I live in northern Florida. And so, and it was a small college. So there's just not a lot of people who I went to college with who live in my area. So it's just great to reconnect with them and see sort of all the pathways that our lives took. And just sort of to share what we've been up to and our struggles and all of that. And so I had a lot of fun, didn't get nearly enough sleep, but that's a good thing. It meant that I was enjoying myself. And I hope to have a chance to go back for our 35th in 5 years. With that, I think I'm going to go ahead and jump into the stitching and show you what I have worked on. Again, it's been 2.5, 3 weeks. I don't know exactly when my last video was, sometime in mid-May. So the first piece I want to show you, I knew I wasn't going to get a lot of stitching done while I was on my trip. I almost always take this one piece while I travel. It's a Mill Hill kit. This is Santa's Treats. And the reason why I take it is it's just so, it's so small and easy to take with me and use perforated paper. And I had already pulled this out a couple of weeks ago to work on a prompt for something. This is now my smallest project. But I like to take it as it's small. It's got the perforated paper, so I can literally just put it in my purse, and because it came as a kit, all the threads are there. So anyhow, what I worked on is I put a lot of this green just coming down here, and then worked on a lot of this cream color here. So I got the word cookies, actually the S though, there's a lot of beads in there that will come in later, so it sort of looks like cookie right now. And then some of that green sort of came in here, which is part of another cookie. So this is coming along nicely. At some point, I'm going to actually have to start beading. I've done a little bit of the beading here for a challenge a few months ago. And then when I start beading, it will obviously no longer be a great travel project because beads need stability in order not to go flying all over the place and end up with half of them in the bottom of the car or on the plane or something. So anyhow, that's where this is. And again, it's a fun little pattern. It's a good one for me to pull out when I need something small and quick to do. And the next project I'm going to show you is one of my Whipco pieces for May, and it's Cloudsfactory Fabulous Women. And so this was actually the first time I had an opportunity to pull this out this year, so it was a lot of fun to work on it for a few days. So there's sort of the whole project back here, so you can just see all these women that I've worked on in the past. And I worked over on this part here. Let me see if I can fold it so I can hold it easily for you. So I put in the whole word architects here because it will say women are the real architects of society. So I put in the word architects. And then this is, I didn't quite figure this this motif here with these two figures, but this is Sacagawea. So I still need to do a lot of her skin, I think, is what I still need to do. But I finished him and the little mountain above him and the cloud and the trees. And I got the nameplate, although I haven't actually obviously put her name on there yet. But again, a lot of fun to work on this one. It is a opalescent fabric, so sometimes I always need to be in the right lighting to work on it. So sometimes it's not the best thing to pull out for me, simply because of that. But whenever I pull it out, I always have a lot of fun working on it. Next piece is one that for Letters of the Month. So this month I worked on, I have to look, O and P. So this was O. So this is Oak Drive by Mystic Stitch. This is one that I have the paper copy of it. So it is, while I absolutely love this picture and it reminds me so much of where I live, just these majestic live oak trees that have these like huge branches, and they're, can be really, really, they can be a yard or a meter thick in diameter at the trunk, and they're absolutely gorgeous, and I love them because it's a paper pattern. It's not one, and it is quite confetti heavy. It's not one I pull out that often. But this time, so here's where I am now. And I will say, I forgot to say, here's where I was before. And here's where I am now. So basically what I did was I put in a lot of 3371. So basically my Q snap, this is coming down a little bit, like the page break is like somewhere probably around here. So obviously I went down, but like within my Q snap, I wanted to really get a lot of this branch done. So I pulled in all of the 3371 that was required in there and brought it down to a good stopping point close to the Q snap. So again, love working on that. It goes, when I'm working on the branch, because there's a lot of solid coloring, it does go quite quickly. But when I am, when I get to this green part here, which obviously is what's going to start coming up over here, it is so confetti heavy and it's very slow going. And of course, that's what makes it fabulous, but it does mean that it takes a lot of time. So again, not one I pull out all the time simply because of that, but when I do pull it out, I really enjoy watching the picture come to life. And one thing I should say, I forgot to mention on my first one, this is where I'm going to insert the picture. On my previous tablet, my camera just died. Like it was acting fiddly. I'd be in the middle of a Zoom and it would just decide it didn't want to work anymore. And so it would shut off and Zoom wouldn't let me turn the camera back on. But I was sort of like, most of the people I Zoom with don't really need to see me. So it was fine. But then it just decided it didn't want to work anymore. And so we had this is our spare tablet. So I pulled it out and was transferring files. So I hope that all my old pictures transfer successfully. If they didn't, I'm sorry. I'm not going to, especially the ones that because I take pictures after my videos of exactly where everything is. And it's those pictures, if anything showed up last week in this in my last video, rather, I may not be able to insert the most recent photo. I'm going to try, but I don't really want to have to spend a lot more time transferring files because IT and I have a love-hate relationship. I love the fact that it works, but I'm not an IT expert. And so right now I've got everything on the cloud, but before my previous one, I was storing a lot of it on the hard drive. And it's all still there. The tablet still works, but sort of now transferring it again. Not sure I really want to do that. So anyhow, that's where the Oak Drive is. Next one is one that I pulled out. This is the first time this year that I worked on it. And this is Simple Little Big Love by Alessandra Adelaide Designs. And this was a giveaway I won several years ago from Carla at Cobweb Corner. And it's a beautiful design and fun to work on. But it's not one that I'm like, oh, what am I going to work on? And like immediately pulls me and say, that's what I want to work on. It's a shame because I absolutely love it. And it also, May 2020 was the only year that I did Mania, and this was one of my Mania starts. And so its birthday came up and I thought this is a great excuse to pull it out and work on it. So here's where it was before. And here is where it is now. So basically what I did was I think it was this feather down here. I filled in the background. I had the outline and part of the I think the colors in here, and I filled in the background and then pulled that color wherever else it was in the pattern. And then I pulled, I think filling in the dots somewhere. And then that's why you have these colors that are coming up here. Yeah. So again, it was, just a good chance for me to work on something I haven't worked in a while. I only worked on it for one day and only put in a couple hundred stitches, but it was still fun to have a chance to pull it out and work on it. And it is on my WIPGO board and letters of the month, so it will come out later on in the year again, but not in June. Or, well, maybe it will come out in June because, if I decide I really want to work on this, it's going to get pulled out and get worked on, but I don't feel obligated to work on it. So that is a little big love. And then next one I worked on a little bit more was Lavender and Lace World Peace Angel. And I'm not even going to show you the picture of where I was before because it was so pathetic. I think I had 35 stitches in. And this was a new start that I started in May. And it was the freebie I got for new starts. It was the freebie I got for completing a successful album check. So I just felt like I couldn't leave this with 35 stitches. So I wanted to put in a few more stitches. So basically now this is sort of, so you can see sort of the earth sort of coming. It is rounder than that, but the color that I used, this is the shape that it came out. So not really a huge amount to see, but it's still beautiful, beautiful picture, and I'm sure I will be loving on this for many years to come. And then my last piece, oh, sorry, not my last piece, but for this happened to be both letters of the month and my WIPGO draw. So I showed you a little bit of this earlier in my last video, and here's where that was. And this is the picture, Portrait of Veronica by Mirabilia. I do feel a lot of practice because it has been, 2 weeks is about my sweet spot of I remember what I'm supposed to be doing in a video, and then I hit more than 2 weeks and I'm like, oh, I'm messing up. And here's where I am now. So basically all I did, I'm working on her arm here. And so I had done up to about the crook of her elbow with this color, and I basically came down. So I've now done all this whole color into, this is about where her wrist is. So her, while Mirabilias, they all tend to be very, very skinny. She's not that skinny. I mean, she still is, but her arm does have more meat to it than this. It's just that's the color. So it will be made fuller and fullened. That's not a word. Thickened, so to speak, when I start pulling out the other colors for it. But happy to have a chance to pull this out and work on it a little bit more. And then sort of the three pieces that I show almost every video. So the first one is Old World Map by Artecy. This is the large version. And this was also for letters of the month. So I had, or was it? No, I can't remember. I don't think it was actually. I think I just needed to work on this. And it's my oldest project, so I like to work on it quite a bit. So just scrap that I had a prompt or anything to do with it. So anyhow, this is where it was before. And here is where it is now. So basically what I have been doing is, probably better if I come over this way. Basically when I had moved the Q-snap at the beginning of this year, most of this was done, but there were a few ninja stitches that were hiding in here. And so what I've been doing is finding those ninja stitches, pulling that color, but then doing it all the way over here. So it's been some, I can't remember if it was like 3829 or somewhere along that. So a lot of this sort of gold color that comes around the globe, and then also some black. So filled in a lot here and then came over here. and then some other random colors also, which didn't have a huge number of stitches. So again, I love working on this one. It is my oldest project. I am no longer working on it daily simply because it messes up my flow with how I want to do my stitching otherwise. But I do look for reasons to pull it out because it is my oldest one. And now that I've started to travel again, it really gives my bug. That the reason why I wanted to start this in the beginning was because I do love to travel so much. And during the pandemic, it kind of made me sad. But well, I'm still not doing all the travel that I want to be doing. I'm starting to get a little bit more comfortable with it. And we'll move along. And, hopefully I do have some trips planned for this summer, this fall. So some stitching related, some not. And I'm looking forward to those. So the next piece that I worked on, this is High Intensity, the cropped version by Artecy. And I put in quite a bit on this since I last showed it. So here's where it was before. And here's where it is now. So I basically have been doing a lot on background here right now. So a lot of, I had some of the black done last time, but a lot of this black coming over here. And then as it's coming up in his face, and I just love the way this is coming together. Obviously still need to do a lot more on his face, but just even with the black and showing some of the outline of it, I think he looks so good. I'm so happy with this. The background, to be honest, it's looking better in the photo, on the camera than it is in real life. It is a bit pixelated in real life, but that's what you get doing something on 14 count when it's the cropped version. But I didn't buy it for the background. I bought it for the Jaguar, and in person, the Jaguar looks awesome. I know you can't see a lot of him right now because he's behind the Q-snap, but he looks great. And I just, and the way, even just thus far with his face, how it's coming out, his little spots on his head there, which I've done quite a bit on, are looking really, really good. So really, really happy with this project. I'm going to work on this at least today. Maybe I'll work on it tomorrow before June starts and I start working on some of the Whipco things for June. But that's High Intensity. And then the last project I'm going to show you, Cats in the Toy Box by Heaven and Earth Designs, artwork by Lesley Anne Ivory. So up closer. And here is where I am now. So mostly what I've been working on is this kitty. I really, really need to do this kitty's eye. It's a lot of confetti and colors that don't get pulled elsewhere, which is why I haven't been pulling out those colors. But the one-eyed kitty is kind of freaking me out a little bit. But I have did a lot of 644, which filled in a lot of you can't really see this kitty's whole body because the basket is covering her, but a lot of her head, and she's got like a mane and some of that in her leg, although there's more like peachy colors here too, and started working on some of the colors. And this ear was done before, which is why it looks better than this ear. But just having a lot of fun working on this one. Love watching these kitties come to life. Like watching the dolls come to life too, but I'm doing it for the kitties. And so it's just been a joy. I work on, I say this a lot, I work on it most evenings. I didn't travel with it, and I didn't travel with it. And then because I was trying to meet some challenges, I would pick up pieces and just work on them whenever I picked them up until I stopped stitching for the day. That included the evening. So this didn't get, it's gotten, in the month of May, over 3,000 stitches. Probably since the last time I showed it, it hasn't gotten a huge number of stitches, but I love it so much. I just want to show it to you all the time. So anyhow, that is Cats in the Toy Box. And then, so that is all of my ongoing projects. So I have for Whipco, so there's two, the numbers are drawn, 9 and 16, maybe. If you're doing Whipco, go look at what Jessie Marie put up, because that is not the official. But for some reason, those are the numbers that stick in my head. And I will say that I have hit all my Whipco goals. I do them on a monthly basis, and I have hit them all. And so my board is, assuming that I meet that in June, I will I, along with many other people, will get my first bingo, which I believe is the diagonal from the lower left to the upper right, if I have my left and right correct. So anyhow, so one of my numbers this is White Owl, charted by Artecy, artwork by Kayumi Hirai, and here's where it was before, and this is just where it is. And actually, I'm not going to stick in where it was before, because this is where it was before, because I haven't worked on this in months. For some of you might recall, I was complaining about it a little bit because this page in particular is just a lot of 939. So it will go very quickly when I pick it up, but not the most interesting. But then someone commented that, she was working, she had thousands and thousands and thousands of stitches of 310. So like I said, you win. This probably only has about 1,000 more of 939 in this section. So I just need to bite the bullet and get it done, which is my whip go goal. So I will probably pick it up and put 939 down. The other thing, I thought we'd have a little fun. So I put in some, I wouldn't say wild cards, but I put on my whip go board, I put a couple of, I'm sorry, I'm unlocking my phone here. I want to do something. Of course, now I'm concentrating. Okay. So I put in a few, like most of my blocks were named projects, but I had a few things where I said, okay, let's leave it it's chance on what comes up, but let's leave it a little bit more to chance. And so this is one of those. So this is spin the wheel. And so it will be 1,000 stitches. So I put all my projects on the wheel. I will say, and I will do 1,000 stitches on whatever it is called. And if it's one of the ones that I already have plans to work on, great. If not, it's something else. There's only one project on here that I will not do if it's called, and that's because it's gone MIA. So it's somewhere in the room I'm filming right now, but I cannot find it, and I've looked multiple times. And I at this point, I'm convinced it somehow got tucked in. It's a magazine piece, and it must have gotten tucked in with another piece, and that piece I haven't pulled out this year. And so it'll be found, but I sort of feel if I keep looking for it, I'm going to go crazy not being able to find it. And so I'm just going to let, you find things when you're not looking for them. So anyhow, before my phone locks up again, let's spin the wheel. Stars Hollow, and that's perfect timing. So that is, for those of you who are not familiar with it, that is from the Black Needle Society. They had Stars Hollow is the Gilmore Girls, and in the they're doing like a seasonal series of pieces. So the first one was Autumn in Stars Hollow, and I got that box, I believe. Did I get it in December or something like that? I definitely started it towards the end. It might have gotten a little bit earlier, but I started it at the end of December, and it's a full coverage, but it's like a 94 by 94 block. And then I have decided I'm doing it all as one big piece. But I haven't done that much work on it. And normally I would say that's fine, except that the Summer in Stars Hollow block is coming. I think we're supposed to get the box in June. And I haven't gotten and so I am not going to be able to finish the the autumn part before then, but it'll be nice to have more than 500 stitches done on that. So it'll be great to put 1,000 stitches into that and have that as an excuse to work on. So let me before I show you how I meant to mention this at the beginning, but again, I'm a little bit out of practice. So I do want to talk about a little bit about the Under 1,000 Subs Club. And so the person I want to talk about is Alara. So she is someone, she's got, I don't know exactly how many videos out. She's been filming for a while. She's had some stops and starts. So I know that, I guess in the spring, she had a little bit of a break and then she came back. She had a really interesting idea to do for Mania. She has, a lot of purchased kits, so not things that she has kitted up herself. Most of them are cross stitch. Some of them are embroidery or other needle crafts. But her Mania goal was to start all of her cross stitch kits and as many of the other kits as she could. And she said she's had some of these for decades. And so, why go through the expense of having all of these kitted up projects? If you still like them and want to stitch them, go ahead, because you're not, they're sitting in your closet and they're kitted up. It's one thing to have a pattern, but it's, when you've paid for everything else too, or being gifted or whatever, when go ahead and start it. So she's got a lot, and there's actually, and it's fun watching it because some of these are really old kits, and so they're designs you don't see often, and some of it is needlework. I've seen quite a bit of embroidery, but not all of it is embroidery, and not how to put it. Not all the knot cross stitch is not embroidery. There's some other needlework in there, and so it's just sort of interesting to see some of the other things out there. She's actually someone that I met when I went to retreat Stitching in the Springs in December last year, and she is local in the Ohio area, which is where the Stitching in the Springs takes place. So we met. I had no idea that she had a Flosstube, and while my Flosstube was going on, I wasn't really talking about it there. So she didn't know I had one, and then we sort of someone said, "Hey, are you watching her? Because she's going to the Stitching in the Springs this year." And so I clicked on her, recognized her immediately, and so we reconnected. So that was sort of fun. So anyhow, with all that said, here is so under 1,000 subs, Club Alara, and I will have her Flosstube channel in the box below. And so my haul, I don't really have that much. I made a decision that I have dropped out of my last fabric of the month, which is color and cotton. And it's simply that I have, between doing no new starts and that I love my big projects and all of that, I love the colors and I love the fabrics, but they're not really getting used, certainly not at a rate of one per month. And while I like having the variety, I had to sort of make a decision about, I can collect fabric and it's pretty, but what I really, like to stitch. So I made a decision to end it. If I ever change my mind, I can go back on the wait list and do it again. So I've already put this on my little card. I do take these and put them on the comic book board and label them. But this is from Color and Cotton, and this is 32 count Lugana, and it is green budgie. So the color of a green budgie. And then the other bit is actually Stitchy Kindness. So this came from Beth, the Steadfast Stitcher. She had a giveaway on her channel, and she had this absolutely awesome piece of fabric. And it is that modeled, but I love it. And it's from Bestitch Me, and it is called Cosmos. And I have ideas of what I would upon this. I think, like, I'm just going to hold it up because I think it's so beautiful. I think like some of the mirrors would look really nice on here. I was thinking like Stargazer might be a good one. Although her dress is kind of dark, so I'd have to really look at those colors. Or one of the ones who is wearing a white dress, because I think that would just really help. I think sometimes I feel like the white dresses, she puts them on neutral fabrics, and while they're not white, I feel like the dress gets lost, and it would absolutely pop on something like this. And this also goes into part of the reason why I dropped my fabric of the months. 32 count Lugana is my preferred fabric for anything that's not full coverage, and I love stitching on it. Mirrors don't quite fit, or mini mirrors don't quite fit on a fat quarter. And when you start bumping up a fabric of the month to a fat half, they don't really, that then becomes a lot of fabric. And I have never seen a mirror that won't fit on a fat half. But then you're left with a lot of fabric, and those, now that starts to get a little bit pricey for what I want. And that's sort of what I found with a lot of things. Like, they don't fit, like, what I want to do. It doesn't really fit on a fat quarter. I don't mind if it's smaller. I'm always happy to cut fabric off and save it and work on another project. But it drives me crazy when it, I do like to stitch with Q snaps, and a 1 inch margin isn't enough for a Q snap. And, yes, you can stitch in hand or do something right when you get to the edge, but then you have to think about how am I going to finish this and all that. And so I think I'd rather sort of maybe pay a little bit more and get a piece, the fabric that I exactly want, rather than trying to say, what do I have in my stash and color-wise and all that. That's my decision. And it's not that I haven't loved the fabrics I've gotten from Fabrics of the Month, but I just have a lot of it, and I'm finding that it doesn't always work with what I want. So with that said, that is all of my haul, and that is all of my stitching that I want to talk about. But I do want to talk a little bit about books and what I've been watching. So if that was all you're here for, thank you for watching. And if you want to stick around for books and TV, here's where I go. So I have sort of two, I don't want to say books, but one is a series and one is a book that I want to talk about that I've really enjoyed. So the first one is from Kevin Kwan. And I think many of you are familiar with Crazy Rich Asians, even if you haven't read the book. You've seen the movie. And the movie, except for the ending, holds pretty true to the book. And the book is also written in that very humorous style. And so I finally finished the series over this weekend. On my traveling, it was easy to read, have the books on the plane, on my phone. And so I thoroughly enjoyed them. It's obviously, it's humor. They're meant to be humorous. And there is a lot, excess is in some ways too mild of a term to describe the way that many of these people live. This is the 0.1%. And almost all the characters, they have money and they love to flaunt it. And I think many of us would say they love to waste it, but they want to live a certain way, and they're very aware of people around them and how they are perceived in spending their money, and they all are trying to outdo each other, and have the best of everything. He's not necessarily embracing it, but he is doing that. And I think, and the reason why, and I've read these books, but the reason why I'm bringing this series up now is I read the third book, and I really liked the way that he ended it, in terms of getting into the psyche of the way of, especially sort of the older generation, because it's basically like people in their 20s and early 30s, and then their parents, who many of whom were born during like the 1840s, because I think this book came out probably like the last one came out like 2014, 2015, around that time. So it's not brand new. But it was just sort of, so a lot, about sort of their expectations of their children and how they spend money and what motivates them. And he's not psychoanalyzing them, but, reminding the reader that a lot of these people grew up in a, if they were, they may not remember World War II, but their parents certainly do. And Southeast Asia suffered immensely during World War II. And he does, there's a touch, a flavor of that history and what people went through. But I think that it's a reminder of how the actions of the past influence people today. And it was just sort of an interesting way that he put it. And I really, 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 I liked all the books. They're just fun reads, but I also like the way that on the one hand, he is sitting in judgment of this lifestyle. But on the other hand, he's not approving of it, but he's also acknowledging like what might motivate this behavior. So anyhow, if you're just looking for a fun read, I recommend that series by Kevin Kwan. The other book I read, so I had some major dental work done a couple weeks ago, and they advised me before I went in. So I was Novocained up. I wasn't put under or anything, but they sort of said, look, it's going to take a while. You might want to bring some music or an audiobook or something. So when they give you that advice, take it. So I wanted something that was really gripping and engaging to listen to while they were doing it. Because I don't know anyone that likes dental work. So when I say I hate dental work, I don't think I'm unique there, but anyhow, so I spent a lot of time looking for the right thing, because I talked about this before. I have a love-hate relationship with audiobooks. I think I've not liked some really good books because I've listened to them and I've regretted that decision. I picked one. I thought it was, I don't know why I thought this, but I thought it was going to be a light read. But I thought it was like a story I could just, I thought it was going to be along the lines of Crazy Rich Asians. Maybe not humorous, but sort of, I would get swept up and swept away. And this book was very much not that. But it was so compelling. And I got so into it. And it was great to have a book that was so good that, yes, I was aware that they were doing things in my mouth. I was on Novocaine, so it wasn't like I was feeling any pain, but I was aware that people were doing things. But to be so immersed in a book like that, I didn't obviously listen to the whole book. But anyhow, the book I'm talking about is called Necessary Lies by Diane Chamberlain. And it is a book, so it's a contemporary book. It came out in the past couple of years, but it takes place in 1960, I believe. And it is basically about a woman who is, well, she's not married right when the book starts, but she's about to get married. But it's basically about a woman who comes from a solidly middle class family, and she's marrying a guy who also she's marrying a doctor who came from sort of a working class family, and very proud of the fact that he becomes a doctor. And she's 21 when she gets married, which was the norm at the time. And she decides, though, she wants to work for a couple of years before she has a family. And so she decides to become a social worker. So I can't remember they live in what town that they live in. I want to say it may have been Raleigh. I can't remember where it was, but they live in a city in North Carolina. But she's a social worker in a rural county, and it is a fictitious county. This is a novel, but it's based on the fact that in the United States, there used to be, they used to have sterilization programs, and the state would pay for people to be sterilized. But basically, in order to qualify, yes, there was a poverty thing, but it was also a need to, they use the word eugenics quite a bit. But basically it was, well, the attitude was the people who are impoverished, they shouldn't continue their genetic line because poverty, clearly there's something in their genes, and the genes that makes them, makes them not be able to take care of their kids, or they shouldn't have kids to begin with. It's that mindset that goes in it. And they were, and some spurious reasons why they might, health reasons. So like one character has vision impairments, another one has epilepsy. So not things that stop them from being good parents, but these were considered suspect. And if you were poor and had these conditions, clearly you were not, you shouldn't have kids. And so in some cases, and the book I think on the one hand, it gives a balanced view. Some people are like, I have 5 kids. I don't want to have more kids. And if the state's going to pay to sterilize me, that's what I want. And then in other cases, they are basically sterilizing people either against their will or against their knowledge. And that they're, like one case, the girl is told, mini spoiler, but that she was told that she was having her appendix out, and they sterilized her. So it does go into, it gives the point of view from like the social workers and the medical community about why they did this, and it gets into that psyche, but it's not justifying it. It's meant, I don't want to say a balanced view, because it's clearly saying this is not a good thing, but it helps you, so often, and I find this in a lot of novels, they so often condemn what happens. And to me, that doesn't help us understand why it happens, because only if we understand why something happened can it help us avoid those problems in the future. So anyhow, it was one of those books that just, it wrapped me up so much, and I was so impressed. It's one of those I went looking at, what else is this? I've never read anything by Diane Chamberlain before, and do want to read other books by her. So really compelling read. So that was Necessary Lies. And that's all the books I'm going to talk about. The TV, just one show I want to talk about. It is called, you like weird things, this definitely qualifies. And it was called Outer Range. And it's something my husband had read about and wanted to watch. And it was definitely one of those where we were like, you watch an episode and you have no idea where it's going. And it's very hard for me to even describe it. But it's got this amazing cast that has like Josh Brolin and Lily Taylor, Scott Patton. So a lot of really good actors in it. But basically Josh Brolin is a rancher in Wyoming. And he, like many ranchers, sort of struggling to make ends meet. He's got 3 adult sons, and just, each of the issues that they're facing. Or does he have 2 adult sons? I can't remember. He's a couple. I think he has 2 actually. He has 2 adult sons, and then Will Patton has 3 adult sons. But Will Patton is the more successful one, and basically is coming up with ways to take some of trying to get the land from Josh Brolin. And you find out in the first episode that Josh Brolin is like, something happens and he's driving along and he finds, it's not a crop circle. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like this huge hole on his land, but like, think, like quarter of a mile in diameter. And it's not a hole, it's sort of a void. And you don't he sticks his hand in it and he's not, whatever. And, I told my husband, if I ever see like a void like that, I'm not sticking my hand in it. That's not me. I can be adventurous, but I see something, that's, can't see the bottom of, and there's little swirling things, and no, I'm going in the other direction. In Florida we have sinkholes, so we do have lots of like gaping holes, but you can see things. So anyhow, and it just sort of, it builds on the mystery about what is this, what's going on, and weird things are happening. And, we got about 6, I think there's 8 episodes. We got about 6 in, and we said, we have no idea where this is going. And I think that's sort of what makes it so amazing. And it does have an ending. I have no idea if they're going to do another season, but they could very easily do another season. But it was very compelling to watch. If you like, I think it's on Prime. If you like weird things, this is it. It's not, it's suspense. There is some violence, but it's not horror by any means. It's not gore. And so, it's put beer in young men and violence can happen. It's that kind of violence. Some of it quite severe, but it's not, it's not violence for violence sake, for viewers' pleasure. So anyhow, that is all I have today. I've been rambling on and on. So thank you. If you made it to the end, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again sometime, hopefully in mid-June or so. Take care.